Hi everybody, this is Ospreyeye from MyChartCoach.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at some of the stocks that were in play today. And today the huge winner was Canopy Growth. It made a big move. It had a strong gap up open on news that Constellation Brands, the owner of Corona, has taken a $190 million stake in the cannabis company. And so this is Canopy Growth. We've already been preaching for a while is the #1 cannabis company in the world. Having a Fortune 500 company take a nearly $200 million stake in the company with at a valuation when the company's at $2 billion right now, and they're taking a nearly 10% stake. That's just solidifying the fact that this is the best place to be if you're looking for exposure to the cannabis sector. So yeah, I recommend you checking out that article. Okay, so let's take a look at the daily chart. As you can see here, the circle represents in September when we were highlighting the key level to break, which was the high close here on the 19th. And then as you could see on the first trading day in October, there was a close above high close resistance. That signaled it was ready to head higher. Notice how it ran all the way up here to 11. It pulled back and held middle Bollinger Band support. This pullback to the middle Bollinger Band, if you had missed earlier runs, if you had missed the an entry and you're looking to get in, this was your chance. It bounced off of the middle Bollinger Band and then it pulled back, and so you had another chance at 10. Yeah, and then today there was the big move. Now there's a gap between high of day on Friday and low of day today. So if the candles do work back into the bands, notice that today's candle is well above the upper Bollinger Band, then you would be looking for the gap fill. As long as the middle Bollinger Band holds currently at 1018, the uptrend is intact. There is a chance it keeps just pushing higher here. There was a PSAR bull flip. Notice there was giant volume behind the move today. Look at the huge volume. Everybody's going to be wanting to get a piece of the stake now that there's confirmation with Constellation Brands. If you look here, there was a MACD bullish crossovers on both time frames. So the MACD bullish crossovers and the PSAR bull flip, those are all signals the possible start of a new push higher. And so there's also a bull cross on ADX. Notice this is the first time that the green line has been above the black line. The green line's plus DI, the black line's ADX. Notice that when it crossed above back here in September, okay, that was when the plus DI crossed ADX to the upside. Notice how that signaled the start of the run. Okay, so when it crossed over, the share price was down here, and then look how it ran all the way up here. So this is signaling the start. You want to see the green line stay above the black line. Another signal that this is the start of the next push higher is take a look at RSI and take a look at FASTO, and then notice that when the share price was running from down here in September till up here in October, notice how RSI and FASTO were both in the overbought power zone. They were FASTO was above 80 and RSI was above 70. Now, notice how both indicators have just broken above those levels. So this is the signal of a start, possibly, of another big push higher. So we'll see if that can continue. If you take a look here, this is the daily chart that we posted before. This is the one where we were showing the jar filling back to 10. As you can see here, we did put out alerts down here that in June that 5 was the load zone for the long-term swing play. And everyone that caught those alerts and has been following us, congrats. This has been nothing but going up ever since. It's turned out to be a great long-term swing trade. Awesome entry down there in 5. We did put out alerts at multiple levels when it was breaking resistance to that it was heading higher, and so when it came up here to 10, it filled the jar back to this February resistance level. Now notice how the share price ran up to 11 and then it pulled back below the top of the jar. This is what we call the lid, and then it took a couple weeks. It's basically taken all of October to turn this lid at the $10 level into support, and then today it's launching off of that level. So it's breaking out to the next zone. Notice the huge volume spike. Okay, let's take a look at the TWMJF, the Canopy Growth weekly chart, and this trades under the ticker symbol WEED on the Toronto Stock Exchange. If you look here, this is the weekly chart we've been working on, and this is showing. Notice how it smooths out the data from the daily chart. It makes it easier to read. You can see once again the bottom. Okay, when we called the bottom down here in June, you see the really nice uptrend. Notice how once the middle Bollinger Band turned into support and EMA4 crossed EMA to the upside, that signaled the start of this long uptrend. And so for us, it's been the signal to keep riding. Notice how the candles have not closed below EMA4 the entire time in this run. As long as EMA4 is holding, continue to ride. This is just so easy. You don't have to overtrade. That is if you have capital to be able to have a long-term position. But this is the type of stock that you're looking for to ride long-term from a technical perspective, because it's very bullish on multiple time frames. If the weekly chart is super strong like this, the signal's to keep riding. If there is a pullback, notice that EMA4 is down here at 1067. That's lined up with this 1050 is the bottom of the gap. So it could theoretically pull back, fill the gap, and still hold EMA4 and continue pushing higher. If you look down here, the MACD bull crosses signaled the start of the run of that next push. It had the PSAR bull flip. There's been huge volume pushing this higher. If you look here at the TWMJF monthly chart, okay, this is going to show us where this is potentially headed. Now, we just discussed the weekly chart and how when it's bullish on the weekly chart and forming candles above the middle Bollinger Band, riding EMA4 support higher, the signal is to keep riding. Well, if you want to take it one step further, you can look at the monthly chart, and if the monthly chart is bullish, then you know you have a very strong uptrend. Now this chart was signaling that the uptrend was beginning back here when this middle Bollinger Band turned into support in 2015 and 2016. Notice how the candles started trading or forming above the middle Bollinger Band, which is the dotted purple line, and riding EMA's 4 and 8 support higher. The signal has been just to keep riding. As long as the middle Bollinger Band is holding on this monthly chart, then the uptrend is very strong. Okay, so what happened this month, what's going on, is a breakout above the February 2017 high close. That's the highest closing price, monthly closing price in the history of the stock. So if it can close above this white candle here for the month, now keep in mind this candle will not set until the closing bell at the end of the month, which is actually tomorrow. So it looks like this is definitely going to close above that level. That signals more upside potential. That signals it wants to head higher. And what is our next target? Our next target is the all-time high right here, 1450. We're looking for a run to 1450. We'll see what happens when it hits that level. So keep an eye on TWMJF. Sometimes the best thing to do is to do nothing and just keep riding. Okay, let's look at AMPE. Okay, this stock closed above resistance today. So congrats, everyone. This was the move that we've been looking for. Notice once again, this is a very strong uptrend. I highly recommend people concentrating on stocks in an uptrend. There's a better chance of the stock going higher if it's already if the trend is already up. And so if you look here, the candles are formed an ascending triangle pattern. Notice how there's ascending support, and then there's horizontal resistance lined up here with the closing price on the 18th. And so as the candles work their way into this pattern, either support is going to break or resistance is going to break. And today there was a close above resistance, and so that's the signal that it wants to head higher. Now the next key level it's going to break is going to be the high close here on the from the second week of October, and so we're going to want to see a break above this 134, 135 zone. So notice that there's big volume behind the move today. You've got a pinched MACD here on the 8, 13, and 5, a crossover signaling a possible next push higher. Now, when a stock is breaking out on the daily chart, the key is to look at the weekly chart for the next resistance levels. And so for this weekly chart, to me, this was looking kind of like a reverse a cup and handle. Usually a cup and handle, you see the cup and then the handle and then the breakout higher, but this looks like you've got or I guess I should have said it backwards. This looks like the little handle, and then you've got the cup here, and then the neckline. Regardless of what you want to call it, this horizontal resistance line was representing big resistance at the dollar level. And so if you notice back here in 2017 at the beginning of the year and in the end of 2016, it was failing to break that level. Well, finally in October it closed above for the week. Okay, so the weekly close here on the second week of October was signaling more upside potential. Notice how the candles have been staying above this red line, above the neckline. That signals more upside potential. Now what we want to see is a weekly close above this June closing price. Okay, so if it can close above this red line, then you've got the 100-week moving average at 140. So those are the two next key levels to break. Notice how strong this uptrend is. I mean, ever since it crossed over here, notice that the pink line crossed the lime line to the upside, and the candles have been riding higher. You know, it's been super strong. As long as the candles are riding above EMA 4 at 108, the signal is to keep riding if you're a long-term swing trader. The signal that the chart is finally cooling down is going to be when you see a weekly close below below EMA 4. Okay, so now let's take a look at TRXC. This stock had a really nice bounce today. This was the bounce play of the day. Notice how it came down here and it bounced off of 50 on RSI. So it's still in the bull zone. You've got a bullish crossover here on Fasto. Yeah, and so down here the technical development was the classic bounce off the middle Bollinger Band. Notice how the candles here formed above the upper Bollinger Band. Okay, so it pushed really hard. It formed gaps on the chart. It came down and filled this gap right here, and then yeah, and then when it filled the gap. Okay, so there was the gap here, and that got filled, and then it continued down to the middle Bollinger Band. So keep in mind when the candles work their way into the bands and the stock's in an uptrend, the middle Bollinger Band is the bottom of the channel. Notice how it's been holding this entire time. Okay, so the middle Bollinger Band is the bottom of the channel, the upper Bollinger Band is the top. So it's bouncing off the bottom of the channel, and it closed right at EMA 8. That's the key level to break at 286. It's right at that level, and so if it can push higher, then the target will be the top of the Bollinger Band and the high closing price here, which the upper Bollinger Band is the top of the channel. And so yeah, so the closing price here on the 17th and the upper Bollinger Band will be the targets if the share price can stay above EMAs 4, 8, and 13 and hold the middle Bollinger Band. Now if you see it close below the middle Bollinger Band, that's going to signal downside risk, and you can see there's a big gap down here between the high of day on this candle and low of day on this candle. So a drop down here to this 50-day simple moving average support zone would fill the gap. TRXC did form bullish one white soldier reversal pattern today, so that's a good reversal pattern. Notice that the close or the open today was above yesterday's close, and the close was above Friday's open. And so we'll be looking for bullish reversal confirmation. If you look at the TRXC 15-minute chart, you can see how it really heated up. It broke above the middle Bollinger Band to start the day, and then it broke above the 50 simple moving average, and then finally into the close here, it's working on the 100 simple moving average currently at 289, and so that's the key level to break. That's the gold line on the chart, and it's holding the middle Bollinger Band at 286. So if 286 breaks and it drops below, you could see a drop down here to test, you know, the big levels, the 50 simple moving average at 268. That's likely to be tested if it can't break resistance here. To the upside, the big level to break is going to be this, you know, the high close of the day, which is around 248 or so, and then you've got the 200 and 300 simple moving averages. Once it gets above 311, it could really get moving, and then you've got this 340 zone from the high close on the 25th. Okay, so take a look at CERC. This is a stock to keep an eye on. You know, it's been consolidating. It's got RSI in the bull zone. It's got Fasto in the bull zone. And so what's going on here is it's basically been in a sideways channel the entire month of October. Notice that the top of the channel here is around 110. The bottom of the channel is down here around 90. So it recently just bounced off the bottom of the channel. Now it's back above the middle Bollinger Band at 103. That's the key level to hold, that dotted purple line. It's got to hold that to keep this uptrend going. You know, it's also holding the 50-day simple moving average at 87, and so it's got a nice uptrend. And what it needs to do, it needs to close above the closing price here on the 6th. And so if it can close above that price, which looks like around 111 or so, that would be the signal that it wants to head higher. And so it's got to get through the upper Bollinger Band next at 116, and then the target would be the top of this channel. So you know that's going to put it up here, which would be like you know, in the 140s or so. low. So it's going to be very bullish implications if it can close above the high close in this pattern. If it fails to break that, then that's going to signal more consolidation. So keep an eye on it. It's got a MACD bull cross on the 813.5. Volume's trying to heat up a little bit. Keep an eye out for a bullish volume spike. You got PSAR coming down fast, and like I said, you got RSI and FASTO in the bull zone. Okay, let's look at APTO here. Okay, it's got RSI at 58 and in the bull zone. FASTO did close at 100 because high of day was the last trade of day, so the bulls were strong all the way into the close. There was a bullish crossover in ADX. Notice how the green line's above the black and the red line. That signal that the bulls are taking control. Notice these green dots here. This is parabolic SAR. SAR means stop and reverse. Notice how the green dots flip below the candles when the candle hit this dot level where the parabolic SAR dots are, and so that signals the possible stop of this downtrend and a reverse and a possible new uptrend beginning. Okay, so the whole key on this chart is this green line. It's currently at 146.3. Okay, if it can stay above that level, then it could push higher and get a new uptrend going. The upward target is going to be up here on August 7th, right around here, 169, 170. So yeah, so we're keeping an eye on which one is it? The APTO here, to see if it can keep this uptrend going. It's been in a sideways channel. Okay, so notice how 170 is the top. It comes down here, hits near 130, hits 170, comes down near 130, and so now it's making its way back up to that 170. It's got to bust above that to break away the top of the channel. If you see these sideways patterns here, really the only way to trade these is to load off the bottom, and then you sell off the top unless resistance breaks. Okay, so take a look at GLNNF. This is our OTC play that's been in a very nice uptrend. It had a big breakout today on earnings being released. Yeah, so notice that RSI here is at 68. It's run much higher levels up to 90 before, so it's got room to run. The stock does head higher in the overbought power zone. They are making money. Their revenues are up 90% from the last quarter, and they're up huge from last year. So yeah, keep an eye on this for a close above October 9th closing price. Okay, so that's the big level at basically 80 cents. We're looking for a close above that on the daily chart, and that should signal it wants to break out higher. This has dollar land written all over it. Notice that the high here is at 95. This is the high. This is the high close in the history of this chart. This stock has not been trading very long. So yeah, this has been on a great uptrend. Notice there's a PSAR bull flip. It held the middle Bollinger Band on the pullback. Everybody, we put out alerts, but that was the load zone on this dip down here in the 40s. Notice there's a big volume spike today, and then you've got MACD bull crosses on both time frames. The MACD bull crosses and the PSAR bull flip are your clues that a new uptrend is starting. Okay, so take a look at the GLNNF weekly chart that we've been working on. And so what we when it pulled back here on the second week of October, or the October 9th week here, that was a red flag that it closed below EMA 4, and so we didn't know if the stock was going to break down, but it quickly recovered and it closed back above on the week of the 16th, and so the candles have been riding EMA 4 this entire time. No, the only close below has been on this red candle right here, and so ever since the middle Bollinger Band turned into support from down here on August 14th, the share price has been heading higher. So for this weekly chart, it's rare to have a over-the-counter stock that has a strong weekly chart like this, but this is once again one of those stocks that the signal has been just to keep riding. So congrats to everybody in the chat that's been riding this. This has been paying off, and so the target here is going to be 95. So what we're looking for tomorrow is a close above the closing price on the first week of October. Or not tomorrow, but at the end of the week, because this is a weekly chart, and so we need to have a weekly close above that level to signal it wants to head higher. A lot could happen between now and the end of the week. If the share price pulls back, it could stall out here and then consolidate. So it really needs to close above that level for the week. The uptrend is strong. Notice the declining volume pattern here. Look for a bullish volume spike this week. So it's got all week to keep moving higher, or we'll see what happens. What's going on here on the 15-minute chart is there's some tight trading here intraday. Notice how it formed ascending triangle pattern. Okay, so it's got like so it formed an ascending triangle pattern. It broke above, and then what we were looking for was a key level to break was the closing price right here at what was that, 1045 was the key level to break intraday when this chart was made, and then it closed above that at 1 o'clock, and so that signaled more upside potential. Notice how the share price came back. It held the middle Bollinger Band, and then it came back up to the 78 resistance zone. So it needs to break back above that, which was the high close at 1045, and then above the high close at 1 o'clock, and that'll signal it wants to head higher. If the share price breaks down and it closes below the middle Bollinger Band and this ascending support line breaks, you've got 74 is the big support level. If 74 breaks, then that's where you could see the big drop, and there's a gap down here. And so you know, that's the red flag on the chart is that this gap fills from today on the earnings that had a gap up open, and the saying on over the counter world is that gaps get filled. So if it does pull back and fill the gap, the 50 simple moving average at 71 should hold, because this has been a very super strong chart, and they have good earnings, and they posted forward-looking guidance, and they said that their earnings are going to be even better next quarter. So yeah, I highly recommend you looking at otcmarkets.com. Look up ticker symbol GLNNF, and you can check out the latest news and their latest filings. Okay, thank you very much for viewing this video. If you'd like to learn more about charts and technical analysis, check us out at mychartcoach.com and our YouTube channel at mychartcoach.com for more charts and technical analysis and more great plays and great calls like us saying canopy growth at $5. Yeah, and we actually were on this much lower at you know, $1. We'll go back. We'll talk about that another day. Okay, thank you very much.